Thanks.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, guys. So let's start. Let's get straight with terms first. So, what is remote team? A remote team for you as a manager is any team which is geographically isolated from you, which means you don't have the physical contact with the team. It might be a team in another office. So you're in one office, the team is in the other office. It's a remote team for you, and you are the remote manager. Then, if your people in the team are geographically isolated from each other, this is a distributed team, right? So they don't sit in the office, they sit maybe in different offices, or most likely at their homes or at their home office. So those guys are remote workers, and this is a distributed team. If these they can still be in the same area, like in the same city. Current situation, we are working from home, and we are all resemble distributed teams more or less, unless we are going to the office. And fully distributed team means that everybody is in a different location, different countries, different areas, different time zones, and so on. So this is like the hardest and the most interesting type of remote teams. And what you're dealing with, in most cases, the mixed teams. So you got a couple of guys so by your side in the office, you got some other guys on site with the customer, who is in some other country, and then you got some people hired through Anywhere program. They are just remoters all over the world. This is the mixed team. But what is important is, as soon as you have your first remoter, your first person working remote, you need to start treating your team as a remote team, right? And this is what we're going to talk about: how to handle remote teams. So, approach. Let's start with setting an example. So when you handle remote teams, you must be the exemplar remote, or you must be the example. You have to show them how to do everything in remote, right? Hardest part is communication. As you know, meetings online are less productive than on-site meetings, because we have a delay. The light of speed is limited, and we have this delay, and when we talk, then we wait until the signal reaches the other end, then somebody replies. So we wait two times the length of your communication, plus some more time for this to be processed. And this accumulates in some considerable time waste. So you need to be attentive with your communication. You need to improve your communication and communication of your team. You have to make it ideal, right? And here you need to be an example for the people. You need to show them how to communicate properly online and how to do this effectively and productively. Next, hardware. Just a laptop is not enough, right? So you need to be fully equipped. You need to have all possible hardware that makes you productive, which means you have a laptop, some periphery, mouse, keyboard, mouse pad, additional screens which you are sharing in the meetings, and you can easily switch between them, and you don't lose context when you're switching some screen and then looking at Teams, for instance, and managing at the same time your presentation and the meeting in Teams. I don't know what else. Tablet computers, iPads with pencils, they are super helpful when you are doing meetings with virtual drawing board. When you're doodling something on the board, this is super productive. Maybe you have a real hardware board with stickers, markers, whatever, guys. You are get creative, and believe me, this hardware helps you with productivity, helps you with being effective and being professional. And being professional means that this contributes to your appearance. You're looking professional with your hardware. You're looking professional in every other aspect, because we are professional remoters. We don't do meetings from bed. We don't do meetings from inappropriate locations, from noisy locations, from internet cafes, from coffee shops. I mean, this is not forbidden, but you must understand that when your audience is huge, and if you are in some noisy location, if you don't have a good internet connection, well, this is unprofessional, and you need to avoid that. You can do one-on-ones, or if you were dragged into a meeting unexpectedly, that's okay. But if you are handling this meeting, this is in most cases this is not okay, unless this is the situation you got into. So the same goes for environment, and I just talked about that. So you mind your environment. Try not to be in crowded spaces. Try to remove people from your background. So create your office or your home office or whatever place you're working from. And the tools, meaning collaboration tools. So there are lots of them, and we will talk about them in the left part of this mind map. And you are the manager, you are the leader and the driver, so you select the tools and you show these tools, and you coach your team to use those tools, encourage them, engage them into using those tools, and show them that this is great, because not everybody is fond of online collaboration tools, but what people don't realize is how helpful they are, and how great is having everything online, everything shared with the proper people, and just using the tools from any location, right? We're doing this here in the office as well, but in remote, this is something we do every day, and this is the only thing we do, because we don't have the marker boards we can use and draw on them and collaborate. So we are using online tools only. So know the best tools and share them with your people. Okay, moving forward. So we decided to create a team, let's say just to hire the first remoter. So you might need a reasoning for that. Maybe you need internal reasoning, like you need to answer a question for yourself. Why am I doing that? I believe in most cases we don't do it. We don't need this, right? Because we know that remote can be as effective as the regular work, or in some cases even more effective. If you know how to do that, you know that this is possible, and you just don't see the difference. So it's okay. You can hire anybody from any part of this planet. But if you don't have this experience, or if you don't have positive experience about that, then you will be asking the same questions as maybe your customer. So which will be your external reason. So a customer might ask you, why do you need that? Why are you hiring some remote people? Why can't you just hire somebody in your office? There are a lot of different, or a lot of potential cases. There are lots of different answers. Like it might be cheaper. It might be, the staffing might be more effective because we're looking for some rare specialists that are that you cannot really find in your location, or the staffing will take forever. So you are expanding your geography and looking for people elsewhere. This happens a lot. Or you need some, or vice versa, you need some people on site with your customer and you are not on site with your customer. So you're trying to hire people as close to your customer as possible. What else? You might need time zones overlap. You might want to cover the whole 24 time zones. Let's say you are running a team of support engineers and you need people in different time locations. Again, you need remote. So and so on and so forth. So what you need, you just need to prepare those answers in case you're asked. Next, so you found some candidates. You're doing interviews. What do you need to? You don't need to change your interview style I guess in most cases you just do a regular interview, but you need to add something. So first, remote experience. Not just work experience, but also remote work experience, because as with the regular work experience, you know that if the person is unexperienced, they will require more maintenance. You will need to coach them or to teach them some basic tricks, or maybe the person might realize that they are not fit for this job, for a remote job, right? So you need to check remote experience and just understand how much maintenance this person might require. This might be plus or minus for you for the overall score. Next, skills, hard. Of course, you're going to check for hard skills, but soft skills as well. So as I said, communication is a tricky part, and here soft skills come I can't say they come first, but soft skills have very high priority. You need to be sure that your people will be able to communicate to each other, will be able to deliver clear messages, won't drag meetings forever, and they speak the language your team is using, right? So in most cases, we're using English, and you need to be sure that this person speaks good English or any other language your team uses, because this is important.
I would build upon what you're saying here, just to add a little bit. So this remote experience and skills is really about being able to write and read. And this doesn't come with all of the employees. So if you compare a non-remote with a remote, you need to make sure they can read and write. And Anatoly's points are really here also, that you can try and check this. So when you hire somebody, don't just talk to them. Make them write some test assignments. Make them write what they're gonna do in their first week, first month, first 3 months, because there's going to be a lot more writing in remote work, and it's going to be across time zones potentially. Asynchronous communication requires that skill a lot. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Yeah, so in my experience, a couple of emails is usually enough, as well as when you talk to people, like three minutes is already enough to see how good this person in their communications. So in most cases, you will do that. You will exchange a couple of emails. You will, of course, you will talk. So just pay attention. This is important. I had this experience. I had a very cool technical guy. He was a very great .NET architect, and he was really great at his job, but his English was poor, and he wasn't able to understand the tasks we were giving him. So he was lagging behind on daily meetings, and even so I had to give him written assignments, and even written assignments he was failing even written assignments. I was writing the task to him in plain text, and he still failed to understand them. So this is a pain point here, guys. Okay, next, webcam. First of all, I encourage you to use it yourself. This is part of your professional appearance. And also, it's very nice to see the person who is going to be a manager. And try to encourage the candidate to use the webcam as well. First, this is cool socializing. Again, it's nice to see the face who's going to work for you. Also, you open up additional channel of communication, non-verbal communication. You see the person, you see their mimics, you see their environment, you see what's around them. You see how professional and experienced they are in this regard. And also, this will help you with fraud detection, because I saw a lot of this, and I'm sure in EPAM this is not going to be the case. I mean, we have great guys, great filters, great TAs who are going to prevent that, and most likely you won't have to deal with that. But just just in case you will, webcam helps you to detect a lot of fraud, because you know, well, remote opens up some possibilities for that. And there is lip syncing, there is people switching. So one person is doing the interview for the other person. You are doing the interview, you see, wow, that's a great guy, that's a great specialist, I want to hire them. And when you hire them, that's entirely different person. So this happens, and webcam stops like 95% of those attempts. Okay, next to the pain points. The main pain points in remote are engagement, morale, and socializing, which are, if unattended to, will result in burnout. And you need to address all of those in your management cycles. Maybe the socializing stands a little bit aside. So engagement and morale, you'll be doing that a lot here, but socializing, it's like up to you. You may do that, you may skip that, but just try to keep your hand on the pulse of your team, because you know, some managers are, or some teams are doing happy Fridays, some teams are doing, like, I don't know, they go to the same events. Some people, I don't know, just communicate, just let's have a half an hour chat on Friday or on Thursday or whatever other time we have. So it's cool to socialize with your people, because when we sit at home, when we sit in remote, we lack that mostly. And if you give this, just a little bit of this to your people, this will boost their morale as well, and this is cool. But again, this is up to you. This is very optional, and this depends on the team, on the manager. So you might just want to leave that alone, but just pay attention to your people, because if they are not socializing, if they just working, you'll see them burning out. So if you see that, at least try to coach them, like say, hey, you are working too much, and I think you are, well, you are just staying at home, so why don't you socialize? Why don't you attend some cool events? We have some at EPAM or either, or whatever. Just feel your team. Okay, so managing cycles. This is the most of this you're already doing, or most of this we are doing already as managers, right? But I just divided them into cadences, into daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and in remote. So when we are not managing remote teams, some of this we might skip some of this, or you know, they merge into something. They merge together, or we are doing something ad hoc, like just we got to the office, assemble the team, go brainstorming, and call it a meeting. Call it prioritization, let's say. But here we need to plan this, we need to time manage this, and we need to make sure that we are doing all of this, because here we are isolated, and we need to make sure that we deliver those activities properly. Otherwise, we might lose something in productivity, or we might lose some engagement. So daily stand-ups. Again, all of this is just a template. It's an example. It doesn't mean it's a framework fit for everybody. But this is what fits most of us. And again, you might do this daily or bi-daily, weekly or bi-weekly, monthly, or maybe more often, maybe a bit less often, but still we need to do that. So tailor this to you and to your team, but I strongly suggest to do everything here. So stand-ups or just daily meetings, daily check-ins. What you need to do here is you need to check your team, how everybody's doing, what everybody's working on, and if somebody has blockers. Blocker is an external hazard, right? So internal problem, like I don't know how to do this, this appears too hard, it's not a blocker, this is an internal thing. It might be a showstopper, but it's not a blocker. Blocker is when your people need something from somebody else, like from support, from some other team, or maybe from your other team. So you need to unblock your people on daily basis. This is of crucial importance because unlocking your people on daily basis boosts your productivity. You'll see that if you try and do this experiment, just start unblocking your people on daily basis. You'll see like 2x, 3x productivity increase sometimes. And I saw the 3x productivity increase. So this is a real deal, guys. Next, weekly. So what we usually do weekly is setting tasks, prioritizing tasks, also productivity checks. We are looking at our people, at our teams, if we have metrics, and I suggest to you to have the metrics, productivity metrics, which we're checking those metrics, and also we're doing one-on-ones. Weekly is ideal. We might do them bi-weekly, or if we don't have enough time, we might do them monthly, but weekly is an ideal cadence for one-on-ones. And remember, on one-on-ones, your people should talk 80% of the time. One-on-ones are not about coaching people. One-on-ones are about listening to people. They might be very short, like 15 minutes is already enough, but you listen to their problems, to their thoughts, maybe to they ask you some questions and you answer, but this is about them. Next, retrospective monthly. So we look at what we did and we see how good we were, or maybe we failed, and so on. We do experiments. We try to introduce new workflows, new tricks, new tools, whatever. We try at least every month. We need to try new experiments and see if they are good. And good experiments transition into quarterly workflows review, because if your experiment is good, well, let's change our workflows. Then coaching, and this is about you coaching the people. So you check your productivity, and if you see that somebody needs coaching, you do that. And this is where you talk 80% of the time, because you are the coach, you are the manager, and you know how to do this better. You need to deliver this to your report. R&Rs, they stand for rank and review. You need to stack rank your people by productivity, by engagement, by whatever metrics you have. You need to know your best people, your main bulk of the team, and your worst people. And your task is to make the middle performers better, and your worst performers at least middle performers. Again, this stands with coaching. So your worst performers need coaching, and maybe they need coaching on a weekly basis. You give them tasks, you see how they did. If they and you try and do that every week. And if you fail to make the bottom performer at least a middle performer in, let's say, 4 weeks, well, probably you need to think about rotation. You need to think about hiring another person for this position, because your bottom performer is just cannot cope, right? And quarterly, so OKRs stands for objectives and key results. If you don't know what that is, just Google it. It's a very popular thing. We use that in EPAM here, but not centralized. So not everybody is using OKRs at EPAM, but the top management does, and you can easily plug to their key results and make them your objectives. And this is cool. So if you set your team OKRs and your objectives are split into key results, and those key results are objectives of your team members, of your reports. This is a very cool way to keep everybody on the same page, and also to see how you progress. And this boosts your engagement, your morale, and everything else. And workflow reviews, we just talked about that. So your good experiments need to contribute to your workflows, make your workflows better. Okay, Petr, now to you and your part with best practices.
Sure, guys. So in terms of this board, we will share the link to it. And the board has actually two separate mind maps on it. One is the one we're showing, and the other one details some of the points we talk about today on the right. And we will have the links, like you see at the bottom, to the suggested literature, some of the books that we find useful on remote. And we're talking about best practices now, and we always hear about planning and time management. Actually, first of all, we need to make things actionable. So everything we come across in a meeting or in our thought life, we try to put it into action point and deadline ideally, and some assignee if it's not you. So that's all good. And how to be super productive. What helps is the deep work mode, and this is the term coined by Cal Newport, a contemporary of ours, a professor who wrote this book, Deep Work, on how to attain tremendous levels of productivity. Now, this is actually the new currency, I would say. It used to be gold and oil that people were fighting for, information. In the 21st century, we basically fight for attention spans. So the longer uninterrupted attention span you have, the better you perform in a given topic. So the source is made of three components for being able to work deeply. We need to have the budgeted focus time. We need to have shallow time for communication and so on, and breaks between those sections. So in terms of focus time, it takes finding the optimal schedule for yourself. And for most of us, we have many meetings as managers in our day, so we need to budget in our calendars the fixed intervals where we do deep work, and we ideally share these with our peers and bosses, so that they don't interrupt us. We disable all the disturbances, all the notifications, all Teams, all emails, everything. I put my phone screen down and on an airplane mode or do not disturb mode. So everything like that. And what is often asked, okay, but what if an emergency comes? So for an emergency, you have your calendar shared, and if somebody wants to block in time, they can still try to block it within your slot, or you leave some mode of communication open. So say text messages for emergencies. But generally, when you have these uninterrupted slots and you don't change your context, then you have tremendous increases in productivity. I mean, it's easier said than done. What I employ for myself is a gamified thing, and many of my friends do. So you reward yourself for each slot of half an hour or 20 minutes that you spent on one topic without switching to Teams, without switching to Outlook, without surfing the net, just focusing on a particular topic, say writing a letter or writing a workflow or anything, working on your IDE. So for each period like this, I give myself a marble. I put them in a box on my desk, and the goal is to see how many marbles I earned for the day. And actually, I encourage my kids also to compete, so they can also see who got more marbles in a given day. And basically, what that allows is increasing a lot your productivity. And what helps, we'll talk in the last section of our board, is productivity trackers. So it's like Fitbits for work that offer you to see how much of the focus time, uninterrupted time that you didn't switch between applications you had, and what's your stats on this. So in terms of shallow time, this is the time to catch up on emails, on meetings, and on chats. And that's the time you have in between those focus times. And what also helps a lot is making breaks. So for most people, at least once an hour, you try to stand up and walk or make small exercise, stretch, do some sports, or meditate. If you work on code, some people can go for 2 or 3 hours in this flow mode. So you can check out Csikszentmihalyi's book called Flow, and Cal Newport's Deep Work. So before we take questions, we already have some written, which is great. We also wanted to mention the meetings. So we will have a separate section after the Q&A on how to manage the meetings. And the great function that is now available not only on Google but also on Outlook is to do speedy meetings. So all meetings are reduced by 10% or 15%. So by default, you have 25 instead of 30 and 50 instead of 60-minute meetings. Just check that box on Outlook. And obviously, what is super important is the way you manage your life and work balance. And the fundamentals are still super important. The amount of consistent sleep that you get, a schedule of sleep and exercise, and it does help a lot to meditate. You can I actually learn through courses, but also a lot on YouTube. You can learn on meditation and focusing on sensations in the body. And these are the things that are more available in remote settings. So in case you and your team take advantage of this, that's part of the reason why you should become more productive working remotely. You can do more deep work, you're less distracted because people don't come and nag you in the office, and you do more balanced life in terms of your overall well-being. So that's the perks of remote work, and some of it is described by the Rework and Remote books by Fried and Hansen. And we have the summaries for these books below in the violet color. So to wrap up this part, there's the approach of zero inbox. That's basically whenever you get some to-do or some email or some message, you try to assign it to a date and put it in a calendar or a to-do list. I actually don't do it with many of the emails and chats because I don't have the time to do it, so I leave them unread for this. That's part of the zero inbox approach, so you leave unread all the action items and emails as to be acted upon. And obviously, whatever we can automate helps, so making filters on your inbox, because 80% of the email is not urgent or important that you get. And what helps in remote, you put more stuff in the form of sheets or Excel, and there you can automate much of the stuff also, repetitive actions. So with that, I wanted to pause and see if Anatoly has anything to add and take questions as well.
Yep. Well, I see two good questions. I wanted to say something on zero inbox, but I think you said, because there is a good question about the zero inbox and how we handle the WFT project managers being sent in blind carbon copy. Because yes, they are not. I don't know a good filter for that, but most of the managers are kind enough to mention that the WFT project managers are in BCC. So my filter is simply if there is WFT project managers in subject or body, move it to the special folders. Those that slip this filter, well, they are in my inbox and I have to move them manually. But still, I read all of them. So, and those messages are rather important. I mean, a lot of them are, of course, a noise for us. We don't deal with the technologies guys are asking, but well, sometimes we do, and those times are important to answer. I had a couple of questions asked in this group, and I got a lot of very good answers, and of course I try to answer every time I see something that I can answer to. So I think, but well, I don't know a better way to manage that, unfortunately. Peter, maybe you do.
I think that's fair what you said, and basically that's similar in remote and office, that you still have to take care of this filtering email. And that's an interesting question on how you use hardware whiteboards, and the ones that are currently seen behind Anatoly are not very visible for us as viewers. So I would generally agree with this, that physical whiteboard might be difficult to read, and you might play with it. It's always good to have a electronic whiteboard, so we use either G Suite or basically they used to have this feature in Teams to have a whiteboard, and some of the video conferencing solutions offer it. What would you suggest, Anatoly?
Yeah, that's true. And yes, they are not as visible as they should, as they are better be. But, well, first of all, in Teams, you can always pin the video stream from the person you want to see, so you can enlarge the. So if I'm going to draw something on the board, well, first of all, I will make sure that it's visible, because this is too far. I have one at home and it's like just right behind me, and it has better visibility. But in most cases, you use it not in the meetings, but well, sometimes I do, but. In most cases, this is your personal board, so you use it, you draw whatever you want, and then if you want to share it, just make a photo, send it to Teams or to pin it to Miro, whatever. But yeah, this is not a very good replacement of the collaboration board. So for that, yes, please try. Well, you better use the Teams or the Zoom board you have. But this is something permanent, so this is yours. You draw on it, you use it, and sometimes you want to share it, so just photo and send it to everybody. It's not it's it's a tool of your personal productivity. So if you don't have a board at home, try getting one. You will enjoy it, guys. I can assure you, this is a very cool piece of hardware. Okay, Pavel is asking how to manage remote with haircuts.
I'm not sure I got the message there. In terms of quarantine and getting your haircut.
I mean, yeah, Pavel is asking how to motivate yourself to go to a barber, and as you can see, guys, well, I have a hard time with that. But
yeah,
well, still a good question. We talked about socialization, socializing. So get out of home, And this is a very good point to get out of home, right? So yeah, I need to see the barber. Finally today, I'll do that and get out of my home. So why not?
No, I mean it's a good point. So especially when you have part of the team co-located and part of the team remote, that the remote part of the team might feel somewhat isolated. And this is about the morale. And for myself, I wouldn't care to shave or you know get my hair cut if I didn't go out to my at all. So I do one day in a co-working. We do a WeWork day on Thursdays, and basically it helps get motivated to dress up, you know, and to basically see real people. And what is also very good is to let your team convene offline at least once a year, better if possible once a quarter. So that helps a lot, the dynamics in the team and the communication. And that's the question about it, Anatoly. What would you add?
Yeah, before I add to this question, so my general advice, guys, again, we just as I said, use your webcams and look professional, which this will motivate you to, you know, to pay more attention to yourself. So get out of home, go to the places like haircuts and spa and anything else, to bars, to, you know, to go and buy a new shirt. So this will motivate you because you are talking to real people and you're showing yourself and you want to look your best, right? And next question is the about remote distributed teams and team buildings. Well, yeah, as Peter said, of course, the best way is to assemble everybody in the same place. And well, some teams are doing that. Like, you know, when I quit crossover already, one of our guys called for an assembly in Barcelona, and I unfortunately had to miss that because I was getting into EPAM and I just couldn't do that, but I would have, and a lot of guys did that. So as for remote team building, well, again, happy Friday Zoom parties. You know, some guys I know from the Valley were starting this Zoom dancing parties. So whatever, get creative. Just call your guys saying, hey, let's just assemble and talk, not about work, but about something else. So there is no general advice for that. This is about you and how creative you can be, but Zoom or Teams or whatever else is kind of good tool for that.
This is a challenge, yeah.
This is a challenge. Make it interesting. Try and make it interesting.
And I try to budget with my team members, budget time on non-work related chat. So I try to schedule it as well so that we don't get lost in the flow of two dudes and try to talk about how does it feel generally. And sometimes issues pop up or you get more open feedback with that. So, and Alon is asking, also about remote collaboration communication tools. I'm not sure why Teams doesn't serve the purpose. So, if you can clarify what exactly you're missing from the ones you listed, and we'll probably go continue to the left part of the Miro, if you want to add something, Anatoly, I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Let me move this to the left part. I see the last question. How can we talk about going out in COVID situation? Well, guys, we don't. and we strongly advise not to go out if your country or location is still in lockdown. But remember, we are in different geographies, and a lot of countries already lifted the strict lockdowns.
Yeah. So generally, again, best is to schedule some time to physically get together, at least with most of the team who are reasonably close located. So we had that last quarter with our team, and we only had one person from Bali, Indonesia, who found it difficult to come, and she joined over Teams, and the rest spent a couple of days together in Minsk. So basically, we're talking now about meetings then, and we're full of meetings. Our days are packed with this, so it's very important to apply the razors first and to see if we really need a meeting to solve something. And remote helps posing that question and actually seeing that oftentimes we can do a one-on-one chat or write an email or communicate over Teams and chat with each other to solve a topic. And second razor is to cut a meeting. Do we really need all these people? So actually, oftentimes we can cut down or basically assemble separately sub-teams to cut down the time. And why this is super important is because if we calculate the dollar value of the time in meetings, it's oftentimes more than $500 or $500 a meeting, or even $1,000 a meeting. So if you have, say, each person is $1 a minute, if you have 10 people in a meeting for an hour, that's already $600. So basically, try and apply the razors to cut down the meeting's time, number of participants. And in terms of time, that's something we already mentioned. Apply the speedy meetings always. I oftentimes schedule 15 minutes, but my defaults from Outlook are 25 minutes and 50 minutes. That's available on Outlook settings as well as Gmail. So what goes without saying is it helps preparing ahead. If you, the host, you propose an agenda, and if you speak, you try to tailor your message and sometimes write it down to make it clear. So that comes with delivering the message yellow part, and this is about clear statements, especially for Russian-speaking folks. It's easier to do that for English speakers, to try and shorten the sentences, make them more actionable. The language, or the Russian language, is sometimes difficult for that. And in terms of actionable items, we already touched this in the previous part, and we have from each meeting some ideas, and we try to form them into actions and to assign them to someone. So all of the non-assigned, you keep in your back burner for yourself, and then you try to assign those action items if this is applicable. And obviously, it supports a lot the message if you share your screen. So, or a whiteboard, as we discussed before, ideally an electronic whiteboard. By the way, when you share your screen now, Anatoly, maybe it's better to zoom in a little bit. For me on a laptop, it's not so readable. Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
So, in terms of managing the meeting, it helps to stick to the agenda. Again, for the Anglo-Saxon culture, it's a lot easier, and for those that come from different cultures, do read the book Culture Map, because there's actually a question on this. Somebody posted it. How do we deal with different cultures? And it helps to understand how to communicate vis-a-vis different cultures. So Erin Meyer Culture Map, there's a summary in the books section of this mind map. And try not to get hijacked your meeting. So it's always good to say something along the lines, okay, let's discuss it in a separate meeting. And do manage timing. So if there's not a quorum within 3 minutes, you can skip a meeting or a hard stop, basically, whenever there's the deadline. And in terms of etiquette, what helps is muting if there's more than 2 or 3 in the meeting, or if you have a background that is noisy. Otherwise, if you have a brainstorming meetings, then obviously muting doesn't help as much. And that also is a challenge when most of the people are co-located and you're remote. I face this challenge oftentimes, and what helps is assigning a facilitator who hands over the mic. So whenever, say I'm remote and the team is chatting, I have more of a lag time, and the challenge is to not interrupt people, but still get heard. And the ear time is harder to get when such a mixed team is present. So a facilitator helps, and also just warning people, okay guys, don't be mad at me, I'm gonna interrupt. That's kind of over communicating these challenges helps, and encouraging.
Peter, sorry, I'd like to add here that generally I think it is already a norm that interrupting in online meetings is not rude. So we always interrupt each other because of this delay. So we do it unintentionally. So we don't. This is okay. And of course, if you are remote and the team is chatting, just cut in. Don't afraid to interrupt if you have something to say. I think that's an okay approach.
Yeah, if you thanks for this addition. If you try to warn your team about such possibilities, then just to let the shy ones try and do this as well. And the last point is around the webcam and meetings. And as Tolya has been saying, try to enable it when you're actively participating. And when you have somebody in the background, say some of your family members, obviously better disable it, not to distract people. And if your connection is not as good, basically Teams offers, and Skype as well, I think, offers switching off others' videos or your video, and then that helps. And generally, it helps minding your background, so there's no direct light, especially from behind, so it doesn't feel like a big brother or something. And basically, there's not much distractions in the background. That's what we wanted to say about meetings. And I wanted to pause here to take more questions. And somebody actually raised hand before, I think. So have a look, Anatoly. There's a good question on how we deal with the culture part on remote teams. And Melissa, it would be good if you can basically maybe clarify a little bit which part of the culture. So culture has many dimensions, and if you can maybe zoom in which part of the culture. So for instance, Culture Map book draws each country and each nationality along 8 dimensions. And one is, yeah, Anatoly is showing the book link. And basically, one of the dimensions is how the communication goes with authority figures. It differs from country to country. The other dimension is if there's a lot of context involved in the communication or not. And for instance, United States, as far as the book suggests, is basically low on context, and Japan is high on context. So if you're communicating from United States, you're supposed to be very explicit on each of the things that you communicate and explicitly mention the thought process. Whereas in some other cultures like Japan, there's a lot of things implied. So if you communicate a very short bullet, you still might get a lot implied in this message, and it's important to bear this in mind. There's a question about Russia and Mexico. I think that's a good question. I don't know, Anatoly, if you've worked with Mexicans and if you have.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly speaking, I didn't have any issues with guys from Mexico. I had a couple of great engineers, Docker engineers, senior guys. We didn't have any problems, but well, I think, well, first, I think the general answer is how do we deal with different cultures? So we respect them and we try to understand them, and that's what just Peter was just trying to say. So the culture map is very helpful here because yes, sometimes people from other cultures might seem rude or might seem, you know, they might speak too slow or too fast or well, whatever. There are lots of nuances and we need to understand them and accept them sometimes, or you know, work on creating the relation. But in most cases, we work as an international team, embracing international culture. So, well, with some nuances we just talked about. So Melissa, I suggest you ping me or Peter or both of us in Teams. Since we are Russians, I think we can speak about the issues. You can describe them, and I'd be happy to try to understand and maybe explain if I get what's wrong, right? So yeah, again, as I said, I didn't have any specific issues with guys from Mexico. I don't know, but we're good. Let's move to the other questions then.
There's a question if Tanya is not seeing the questions we're referencing. I'm not sure if non-organizers see the questions, so we try to pronounce the questions we
yeah, Tanya, I think you're not supposed to see them. Indian team. Okay, so what about Indian teams? And many questions in emails are left unanswered. Guys, I don't think this is a problem with a region. I mean, I had this problem with a lot of cultures, actually with people all over the globe. So people tend to skip the questions. And in most cases, I think this is about the communication culture. So if you see your question unanswered, you repeat that, you reiterate it, you put it in bold saying, hey, please, please have a look at this question. This is a very important one. And if you feel like you're being, I don't know, ignored, the general trick is if you see that somebody is ignoring you, you go to their manager and resolve this with their manager. This doesn't have to be an escalation or a conflict or anything, but you just go to the manager and say, hey, you know, I'm having trouble understanding your report. So this is the situation, this is the question, maybe, or maybe if some people are ignoring your emails totally, they might be in some personal trouble or on vacation or anywhere else in traveling. So again, you're going to their manager and saying, hey, I can get an answer from this guy. Can you help maybe, or can you redirect this question to some other guy? I think this is the general approach, and it doesn't have to do anything with some particular country or culture.
Yeah, I would mention in response to these culture-related questions also that there are another two dimensions that are mentioned in Aaron Meyer's book, Culture Map. And these are how different cultures disagree with each other and how they provide feedback. So some cultures are very confrontational, and when they disagree, they put it very bluntly, such as sometimes they do it in France. US is in the middle of this spectrum, and some of the Asian countries avoid direct confrontation. So we need to bear this in mind when we communicate and get something unanswered, if there is a tacit disagreement or not. And same goes with evaluating or providing feedback. So like Germans and Russians and the French usually provide direct feedback, even if it's a negative feedback. And some cultures such as the UK, they would tend to frame it differently. And we need to understand that if we're talking with a person from the UK, we need to increase the volume of what they just said by threefold at least, in case we want to translate it to a language of a culture that has very direct negative feedback in place. So have a look at this differences across cultures. So we actually seem to run out of questions, and we still have some time here. We'll share again this mind map with you guys. So
it's already in the chat in case. Yeah, thanks, Peter. Yeah, the mind map is already in the chat in case you guys want to have a look at it, or well, if you want to look at some other parts that we are presenting. So Peter, if you don't mind, I'll take over the last part about the tools. Okay?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, guys. So collaboration tools, or just team online. The tools we are using or that we need to use. I put 5 main functions that these tools need to provide: the managing communication, tasks tracking, collaboration, and productivity. And it's hard to classify the tools by those functions. I mean, every tool provides, in most cases, several. So there is no, like, this is tool for managing, this is for communication, this is for task tracking, everything is merging. So Teams, it's not just a communication, it's also for collaboration. Or you can use Miro for communication, not only collaboration as well, and also for maybe productivity, for tasks tracking, for whatever. So this is the huge list of tools we came up with during our research. Most of them we are using right now, and I'm not going to describe each and every tool, guys. This will take forever. Instead, just let's have a look at them top to bottom. And most of them, most of them, you worked or are working in some of them, and you know the rest. But if you see the tool you don't know, I strongly urge you to Google it and have a look at it, and maybe try using that for a couple of days or a week and see if it's a good tool for you, and try to apply. And as I said, experiments. So try and do this experiment, and if it's a successful one, employ this into your workflows. So let's go. First, involved is our own Delivery Central internal EPAM tool. So if you some guys asked me what stats, so apparently not everybody knows that we have this delivery.epam.com, and you I don't want to show it right now, it's not a demo, so just have a look at this tool. This is a very powerful one with projects, with metrics, with key stuff, with with delivery updates and so on. So I'm using this tool on weekly basis at least, and you can integrate it with a lot of stuff, and they are adding features and so on. So this tool will actually give you functionality and provide most of the features you need in terms, at least in terms of managing your project and your team. Next, Jira and Confluence. Well, you know that's task tracking and documentation, cool tools and default for all EPAM projects. Next, Trello. This is the tool for making lists with cards, and it's super lightweight, super fast. So I'm using Trello for Kanban boards, and I'm using Trello for check-ins, daily check-ins with my teams. And on those check-ins, I would just create cards, move them, and so on. And you can easily integrate Trello with Jira, because Jira is kind of heavyweight and Trello is super lightweight, so it's a very good choice for fast, swift daily activities. Well, I also use Trello for personal needs as well, because it's just super awesome and fun. Next, Notion. This is I'd say it's a new generation of Jira plus Confluence plus Trello all together. This is very lightweight, and they got a lot of funding during the COVID situation, so a lot of people are switching to the Notion. Again, I'm using it for personal personal purposes, and it's very cool. It's more powerful than Trello and much more lightweight than Jira. Miro, it's an infinite collaboration board, and right now we are in Miro, so you can create mind maps, grids, schemes of any kind, tables, whichever you want. You just invite your team in Miro and draw anything here. Quick answer to question if we have this in EPAM by default available to everybody. Unfortunately, no, but you can easily purchase the Miro plan for your project. Next, MindMeister. It's a specific tool for mind maps, and I love mind maps, so Miro functionality is not enough for me. They have kind of basic functionality, so I'm using MindMeister for more for better mind maps. Again, 3 mind maps go free. Everything else is you have to pay for it, but this is an awesome tool and I like it very much. Next, Dynalist, and there is another one, it's called Workflowy. They are kind of siblings, and we call Dynalist. Dynalist is a Workflowy on steroids. It's a very simple tool for bullet lists with hierarchy. So it's a great tool for meeting follow-ups, or for just quick structure for meetings agenda, meeting follow-up, or whatever else you want to structurize. So basically the bullet list hierarchy is the mind map with just drawn in one direction. So you can use mind maps if you want a more representative structure, or Dynalist if you want to do it fast. Draw.io, it's a tool for drawing schemes or anything. It's not a collaboration tool, it's more of a content making tool, but it's very useful. Fun Retro, it's Trello for Scrum. Zeppelin and Figma are two tools for UI UX designers mostly, and a lot of guys are using it in EPAM and outside, so we put it here in case you need to draw some mock-ups or UX or whatever. Those two are great. Next, we already talked about meeting whiteboards in Teams and Zoom, because we all use them, but we all use Teams. Sometimes we use Zoom. By the way, latest news were that Zoom is at least temporarily forbidden in EPAM due to the security leak problem, but I think they'll fix that. So they have this functionality. You can share your screen and you can share your whiteboard. This is a cool feature. Try it. it disappeared from Teams some time ago. I don't know, like a couple of days ago, because it was there. Maybe now it's not, but it's going to be there soon. I'm sure about that, because it's kind of glitch, or I don't know. And of course, there's calendar. I urge you to use your calendar if you are not doing that, or if you're doing that, like, well, if this is not one of your main tools, I suggest you make it one of your main tools, because again, we talked about getting things done, about creating making things actionable, about actionable emails, actionable meetings. So every action that you don't perform immediately should go to your calendar. You should book your time, you should plan it ahead, and you will be able to answer to anybody. When anybody asks you when are you going to deliver this, you'll have an answer. So this is a very powerful tool. And speaking about time management, guys, this is one of the main tools for time management. You don't need anything else, you just need a system. Also some stuff like notepads, because sometimes you need to do just a very quick, you need to copy paste something real quick, or I use Notepad for tricky stuff like regular expressions. This is why Sublime is here. So this is kind of powerful tool as well. And productivity trackers, Peter, you're best with them, so mic to you.
So productivity trackers, what are they? Many consider them like something to watch the time tracking for employees, and this can be used as this for building trust, and this helps building trust sometimes with difficult situations such as new clients or new managers vis-a-vis new teams. However, generally, it's about actually being able to manage your performance and to analyze your team's performance and to coach oneself and the team. So these are the Fitbits for work. As sports people, they have all the information they need to count the calories, count their strength of their strokes in say golf course, and all kinds of data. And we have the similar data available if we try to use those productivity trackers. EPAM has been experimenting with Hubstaff, so you can see what are the applications divided into time spent on each of the applications, how much time is on Outlook, cumulative in a week, how much time in IDE, how much time in Teams, and so on and so forth. And you can view advanced statistics such as how much of task switching between applications is done, and see if say your team has spent too much time on a particular app. And one of the cases for this was we had a team of account managers who spent more than 23% of their time on Google Docs, and the management, when they saw it, they couldn't see it because everybody was remote, but when they saw it on the productivity software analysis, they were stunned. Why so much? And this raised a series of questions and an improvement in the work flow, actually. It turned out that the CRM didn't have the particular integration needed, and part of them, things were recorded in Google Sheets and Docs. And the solution was to actually implement the needed integration and add the functionality which let everybody use the CRM instead. And they reduced by more than 7% the time the whole team spent each week by this effort. So this was a great efficiency gain, and this is one of the things that you can get from this. Another thing is you can try and see if there's insights into coaching particular team members. So when you have team members doing similar stuff, such as doing similar level of difficulty of support tickets, for instance, you can see how much output each of the team members did, and stack rank, as Tolle has been suggesting, stack rank them and see how the performance of the best performers is explained. And sometimes you would see that the best performers spend less time on Teams, less time on Outlook, spend more time on other apps, say, and you would start an in-depth discussion with the best performance and the worst performers regarding their work styles, and you can let them talk and try and discover whether these work patterns have something to do with their performance. So that's a little bit on the use of different productivity trackers. These are the types of questions you can try and ask. So
yeah, Peter, if you don't mind, I can add to this.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, guys, there is a lot of gold data in this in those Fitbits, in those productivity software, and I had a lot of I have a lot of good examples here. So first, if you try this, you will see that your most likely your worst hazard is emails, right? So the first thing everybody sees when they try to do that, they see, oh my God, I'm so stuck in emails. So and then you start creating the filters, and then you start, you know, organizing them, start the zero inbox, and you see how fast you get with this. You see how more productive time you got because you just optimize your emails. Same goes for your guys, for your employees. Then what else? What Peter said about your reports, I had a very similar example. So I saw one of my middle performers. Well, the great technical guy, but he was just somewhere in the middle, and I couldn't understand why. And I looked at the data and I saw that he's in emails and Zoom, so he's in a lot of meetings and communication. I asked why, and he said, like, well, you know, I'm trying to get something from a lot of different people from a lot of different teams, and I'm stuck with the email loops and the infinite meetings. And we looked at the situation. So we you know, I went to the meetings with him, and I asked him to share emails because he wasn't sharing the emails. So the overall situation was the guy was trying to, he was finding the windmills, right? So he was trying to resolve blockers, and he didn't have enough experience to do that. And I said, hey, come on, this is not your job, this is manager's job. I want you to be productive. So I took most of his blockers, and well, they were resolved kind of quick because he was just pinging the wrong people. He had to go to some other teams, and it was a result like this, and he became one of the top performers. So you can see in this data, you can see things people don't, your employees don't see, your workers don't see, or they might see that, but they won't report it. So this is a really good stuff, and when you use it properly, not as a sentinel, not as a tool to monitor everybody, but as a tool to coach people to get this data insights, you'll see how great and productive your teams can be.
Sure. So we'll see if you guys want to post any other questions, or raise your hand if you want to ask them voiceover. And generally, we're done with this, with the things we wanted to share. And thanks for participating. Very interesting questions. We actually shared the mind map in the chat. We will also email it to you guys. And yeah, let's keep in touch. In case you don't have any questions, we'll be wrapping up. Do let me know if there's some interesting non-prod job opportunities within EPAM. I'm opening up for new roles in this. And thanks for your attention. There's another interesting question here, Anatoly. Have you had cases where using productivity trackers had the opposite effect, breaking trust and or dropping productivity? Yeah, so I think that I've had situations in personal life when I employed new babysitters and put a webcam to monitor babies and babysitters, and they were freaking out because of the webcam. But generally, when you have an expectation and discuss about it properly, then it doesn't let people down. So first of all, you don't need to switch on the webcam in most cases. So in some companies, some clients ask for it, but like something close to close perimeter case, but that's not utilized in EPAM circumstances. And secondly, those people that come within EPAM, they already agreed to have this software. So anywheres agreed to this and they understand what it does. And it's actually not something that they get angry about. What is your point of view on this, Anatoly?
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, of course there's a lot of traction in this because people, well, yeah, they think this is being used exclusively against them to monitor what websites they surf or whatever. But yeah, first of all, EPAM Anywhere guys agree to that from day one, so it's not a big deal to sign them to this. And also, well, you have to be clear and open about people with people about how you're going to use that. You need to show them that you mean no harm and you don't want to monitor them. And well, still there might be some traction, but you know, we are not dealing with babies. We are dealing with adult people who want to work, who want to be productive, and who want to bring value. And if some people are not okay with that, well, this is, I think this is their loss, and you just have to accept that this person is. Because, well, you know, there are all sorts of troublemakers, and this is one of them. So if somebody like, you know, doesn't, so if somebody makes it apparent that if you're going to to try and monitor them, they're going to drop productivity, well, I wouldn't want to work with this person. So a question about organizing emails on Mac. So Victor says that in Windows this works, but on Mac it doesn't. Actually, it does. And but I'm not using desktop Outlook in Mac. So Victor, if you want to set this filters, just open the OWA, the web version, and you'll see all the filters there. So the settings are universal. You can just use the web version. And in my experience, web version on Mac is better than the desktop one.
Okay. Sounds good. So we're hitting the time limit. Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks everyone for active participation and questions. Let's follow up in this in Teams and so on.
Thank you very much, guys. Okay, sorry, Peter.
Yeah. Have a good one. Have a good day ahead of you.
Good day, have a good weekend, and if you got any questions, don't hesitate to ping us in person. We'll be more than glad to talk to you guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.